Bottom Line Sports Talk. I'm George Abraham. You know my partner, Albert. Cam and Albert, from time to time, we like to do a little special. We don't do them often, a few times a year, but it might be college basketball's greatest games. It might be the greatest rivalries. It might be greatest World Series games. But I think we have something today that our viewers are really going to like, and that is our top Ohio State Buckeyes of all time. Now, we're old, but we don't go back much past the mid-'50s because we didn't see them.
You know, and that is important what George said there. There's two thoughts of mine as we go through these. Number one, there's maybe one player we saw playing the pros that we did not see really a lot of at Ohio State, maybe one. Secondly, I want to wait for the modern player. I'm talking about the Fields of the world, the Chase Young of the, to see what they do.
At the next level,
At the
too.
next level,
Yeah,
too.
no,
I want to see if they do.
Absolutely.
So I want to see what happens with them because they were great Buckeyes. But there's been a lot of great Buckeyes we've seen with our own eyes. So we rate these players our best of all time.
That we saw.
Yeah, that we saw. And you Ohio people, I'd love you to write into the show and say, I can't believe you forgot him. I can't believe you put him ahead of him. Whatever. We would love to hear from you because I know, talking to some YSU fans, they schedule their YSU games around Ohio State.
No,
the state of Ohio is made for the Buckeyes.
And now you know, too, today, when someone says, we know now who the top teams are going to be. We've not seen anybody. Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson.
We put those three in the
We
meeting.
know right now. Now, we'll throw someone else in there. We'll listen to you.
Right.
But we know.
Those three we do know for sure. And we know through past experience and recruiting.
Yeah.
You know, those two to go together.
No, recruiting.
You know, so.
They've not dropped I have to say, Ryan Day, I have to give him his due. When, Urban Meyer left.
Big time.
People thought,
Big time.
oh, this is like they say when Saban leaves. They're always saying, we're waiting for Saban to leave.
Right.
You know, well, didn't happen with Ryan Day.
He kept the recruiting going higher. I
think he is a notch up.
Recruiting higher, yeah, he did.
And I think Harbaugh made it easier.
Yes.
By not being successful.
He did. He definitely did.
Let's talk about Jim Parker. I heard a lot of it. Now, once again, he's at my friends.
This is the only one. This is the one.
I remember him more in the pros. But my gosh, the accolades.
Yeah, Jim Parker's the one that we saw play for the Baltimore Colts, and we were not sure, but we did our research on him, and because when you're the first Outland Trophy winner as the nation's top interior lineman, that tells you right away.
What did Woodrow say about him?
And when you get Woody Hayes' quote, Jim Parker, the greatest offensive lineman I ever coached.
That's it. Right there.
Yeah, you stop right there when he says that, because Hayes is not one for attributes. He's much more for saying he stinks. And so he's in the Ohio State Hall of Fame. He could, when I watched him play at that time, he was a dead-eye run blocker, and he kept Johnny Nice up on his feet he was a 3-year starter and 2-time All-American. Was part of the national championship team in 1954.
And remember, too, the way the game went, offense, run blocking, pancaking, we call it today. Oh, my goodness.
That's a great point from George. I know you young people need to look up Jim Parker because he was a big guy then at 220. You know, think about that. Today, he'd be playing running back. The game is changed with regard to nutrition, weightlifting, and size and speed of players.
Hey, interesting. You mentioned something. I put something on Twitter there. We have a good friend who's a strength and conditioning coach for NFL, and he's always talking about the importance of rest. And I was talking the other day, and I said, these baseball pitchers, one after another, they're always hurt. And one of your buddies that coaches football up at Hermitage, he says to me, they don't rest enough. Interesting.
Yeah, well, that is, and at this time, when we talk about Jim Parker,
no, these guys,
they had no idea about rest.
No, they sold sporting goods in the offseason. They probably were doing their bodies good by not being there 12 months.
Right.
And didn't know it.
They didn't know
it.
They
smoked cigarettes back then.
Yeah, they did. So all those things happened, but Jim Parker's our first guy. He's our first offensive lineman. We're going to put the offensive lineman together, and we moved the next guy, John Hicks, and he moved up to 260. And he played in 1972 and 1973. He was an outlet. He won the Outland Trophy winner, the Lombardi, and get this, George,
Second in
the Heisman. He almost swept.
I
all
got to
three.
tell you, when I never watched line play when I was younger. Right. But let me say this: if this guy back then was 6'3", 260,
right.
I can't imagine.
He was a stud.
He had to have been a more. Well, when you win all those awards and you're runner-up in the Heisman, which never goes to defense, it went once, and I really thought Peyton Manning that year should have won it. As good as Woodson was, I thought Peyton Manning was.
Yeah, I think he finished behind our guy we mentioned later in the show, named Archie Griffin too. So,
how about him?
So it was hard to win when you're going against your own teammate. But Hicks got drafted in the first round by the Giants. At that time, when I'd watch him play, he was the most dominating player on the field. When he played, it wasn't Archie Griffin. Archie ran for all the yards, but John Hicks was just a devastating offensive lineman. So we got Parker and Hicks, two of the guys that went on and just made their name in the NFL too. So congratulations to both Parker and Hicks.
You remind me of something with Woody. We have a good friend whose brother played for him at Ohio State. He said one day, Woody's talking to him, and this one guy's like not paying attention. He's like looking down, fiddling with his shoe or something. Woody just gave him a quick left, like to the head, like right.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't. It didn't
Wasn't
even.
a thought.
No, you're not paying attention.
No, not a thought. And then they come back to get him later on.
Yeah. That was more.
When he hooked the Clemson guy.
Yeah, that was
Yeah. And lastly, the best of the bunch.
Best of the boot.
Yeah, best of the bunch. Probably one of the three greatest linemen who's ever played I've seen is Orlando Pace. Played 1994 to 1996. Won the Lombardi and the Outland Trophy. He started from day one.
Now 6'6", 330. I remember my concept of him as being bigger than everybody.
He was bigger and faster.
Oh, that's a good
I think it is that nice, and he is the guy that came up with the pancake block. George mentioned that early. 80 of those in one season. That means the defensive guy was laying on his back. If you get 4 of those a year, he had 80. He was taken in the first round by the St. Louis Rams.
He didn't allow a sack at all, not one sack.
Yes, these stats are amazing. But
yeah,
we don't have to see stats on Orlando Pace. As George said, when you watched them play and they broke the huddle, you say, there's something different about this guy. Yeah.
He's on a commercial or something.
Yeah,
for one of those.
Yeah, he is.
He's sitting on the couch or something and playing.
Just a consensus best player. Except for Anthony Munoz from Southern Cal, I can't name another tackle better than Pace. And he's a Buckeye. And so I think when you name a Buckeye who's considered one of the 3 greatest linemen of all time, I think that's saying something. And
let's talk about his accolades. Freshman of the year in 94.
Think about this.
Big Ten offensive lineman, 95, 96. Finals for the Maxwell. Ohio State's MVP.
Football News Offensive Player of the Year. When do you get a lineman?
Never.
George, it's always quarterback.
No.
It's always receiver. Yeah. It's all not that year.
And he was on that Super Bowl champ thing.
Yes, he was.
For the greatest show on turf.
Yes.
They should have won twice.
Yeah, I think
they shouldn't have lost to Brady, should they?
No, Brady just pulls it out. Somehow he gets it done.
That team was special. Mm-hmm. Their numbers were obscene.
Oh, yeah. They were way ahead of their time offensively.
Now let's talk. I know you love this guy was different. This guy was polarizing.
Oh, he was.
Especially in the NFL. In college, I don't know, Matt, but in the NFL, he was polarizing. Jack Tatum, talk about him.
Well, he played the same way at Ohio State. And, his reputation at Ohio State was always on the edge. He was always the most dominating, intimidating player on defense, would knock your helmet off, would cover down the field. He was one of the first guys that could play the run and the pass tremendously. He played in 68 to 70.
Was he there one year, like a day or two on offense? They moved him to defense. They knew right away.
Yeah, he says two because he wanted to hit people.
Did you see what the record was when he was there?
What was he?
27-2.
2 losses.
Yeah. What happened, Woody? 27-2.
Yeah, many of the players came in this era that we chose. Tatum is the defensive back that could play today and would dominate. They put him down in the box. He would play like a linebacker. He would play the slot guys. He's one of those. He's one of those special guys. When Tatum played, the offense was always at their head up looking for him. You know, and that's how you know a great player when.
Remember, he used to take those.
Oh yes.
He would hit. Now this is the day. See, you kids, you have some things to learn here. You could be running out for a pass,
Get killed.
20, 25 yards down the field. He'd just give you the old
Clothesline you.
clothesline. You're running an out or a
Before it came
post. You'd make the cut, and he'd just put his arm out. Like
Yeah.
you're running through the yard, and he hit a real clothesline. If you've ever done that. Back in
I
the day
I
when
think
people
George.
would wash.
I think George has made a great point there.
Yeah, it
That
was
when we
different.
named these players, we named them during their era. Don't say that guy could not play then because they're completely different.
No.
The eras are different. The linemen today are all 350, 330.
And he would be 6'3", 270,
No question, no.
227.
He would be much bigger.
Yeah,
With the sleep.
That's what a guy said to
with
me
the rest,
the other day. I
with the
said he'd be in the
weightlifting,
weight room
with the diet,
taking the creatine
no.
or whatever.
They all would've.
No, but let's talk about him too. Tragedy.
Stingley, yeah.
Yeah. Tragically, he hit the Patriot receiver Darryl Stingley, and Darryl Stingley ended up in a wheelchair for life.
And yeah, and there's nothing worse than being a great player and being known for doing something like that.
Associated with that.
Yeah, I hate that because he did a 50 million things good.
Yeah.
To make the Buckeyes look
Uh-huh.
good, but that's the one that stayed with
And there
him.
was some, depending on to whom you spoke, whether he reached out to him or not.
Whatever,
and
yeah,
this and that. There's no way to solve that. You know, if you're a friend of Stingley's, you're probably critical. If you're a friend of Jack's, you probably said he did reach out. But that's the type of thing that, I had a buddy, and it actually sent him to an early death. There's an all-star game over in the Wimber area. And my buddy was the guy that hit the guy that it's named after.
Oh, my.
And it haunted him, Al.
Yeah, but haunted.
Yeah, it haunted him.
It's bad enough paralyzed.
Yeah, it haunted
all
the
the way
guy.
to
I mean,
death.
the guy that hit him was haunted.
Yeah. Now we go to the offensive side of the ball. And on offense, we made a major thing saying don't base it on stats. Because sometimes you just have a better team and your stats will stand out. We go by what we've seen, who we saw, how they played, what they did in our eyes. So once again, don't write to us and say, I can't do
He
you.
only ran for 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Look at him.
Yeah,
How
watch
about
him play.
looking at
Yeah,
him?
watch him play. The first guy that we have he played from 92 to 95, and that's Eddie George. He's a guy that really came on strong. Was not the top recruiter at Ohio State. I remember he played against Illinois and took over, and they said, "Wow, where did he come from?" And he just took over. His number 27 is retired. 12 games in a row he ran for 100 yards. He was a Doak Walker Award winner, top running back in the nation. Maxwell Award winner also. And he went on to have a tremendous pro career also.
Big Ten MVP. Good Eddie George story. He settled in Nashville. I'm not sure where he is now, but he was in Nashville. My buddy, these guys are in there playing pickup. My buddy looked in. Several, a lot of those Vanderbilt guys live there. Nashville. A lot of the Major League Baseball. Anyhow, there's a ball game going on like at an LA Fitness or something. And there's one guy there that just looks different. He's got muscles on his muscles.
He did have muscles on muscles.
He's got calf muscles that look like they were sewed on like pouches.
Yes.
Guy says, that has to be Eddie George. He said, the guy doesn't.
Nobody else looks like that.
And these are big boys.
Yes.
Nobody looked like him.
No. And that's the way he ran, too. He ran to punish you. Yeah. And he was a great goal line runner because he always got an extra yard. Big Ten, as George said, most valuable player at a time when there were some great players. So Eddie George leads off our campaign for offensive players. The next was a local player. The next guy, I mean, if you go by stats.
And this guy might be the baddest of the bad.
Yeah, you go by stats.
He's been on the show before.
He wouldn't, he wouldn't be on here. And
oh, no.
yeah, so Paul Warfield from Warner Harding, just a running back when he was there. And, Woody just ran the football, and he would catch 22 passes. Think about that. And somebody that they catch 22 passes in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. The game changed so much. But we watched him and play for the Miami Dolphins and for the Cleveland Browns. And the smoothest, the quickest cutter out of his routes that anybody ever played. Just if he played in today's modern game.
With the field spread out?
He'd have 120 catches every year.
I'd say
Oh, yes.
10 to 12 catches, 8 to 12
Every
catches
game.
a game.
Every game.
I'd say 100 to 130 yards
Every
per game when he didn't break loose. No, he was a different cat.
Yeah, he
You
was.
can't go by the numbers because, as you say, Woody didn't play like that. Woody, robust T.
Yes.
Punish, he'd get ahead of you 14-0. It might as well be 35.
Yeah, they take the clock all the way down and run that fullback 17 more plays. But he was almost went to Olympics in the hurdles, the side in the long jump. He was just a tremendous athlete. You warn people who are watching this show and maybe your grandpa's watching it someplace. Hope you get a phone call and say, hey, those two knew their stuff.
Hey, 60 years ago.
Yes.
Not 6 months. 60,
Right.
26-2 long jump. I know. Are you kidding? People,
I know.
Go to a
all
track
you gotta-
meet and see where 26-2 gets you.
And that's natural. You understand? They had no idea about what we talked about.
Plyometrics.
No,
Plyometrics.
there was no
You
plyometric
see
training.
him doing plyo,
There
jumping
was
the bleachers.
there was nothing with athletic. Let's do this velo starting and all he did was natural. No. And so Paul Warfield makes our list without the big stats.
No, I don't.
But I guarantee you,
No.
he's
the,
not
the
backing.
locals,
He's not backing down from anybody, anywhere, anytime, in the history of NFL football and in the history of Ohio State football.
I'd say right now, the local people
they know.
know that
know
we're
for
right
sure.
on
Oh,
this
they know
thing.
that one.
I remember when he played for the Browns and the Dolphins.
Right.
He was nobody's fool.
No, just different. He was different looking. Another different guy who
Oh, no.
only thing he scored touchdowns. Remember that line? All he does is score touchdowns.
Yeah.
And that's Chris Carter, who played from 1984 to 1986. Almost 3,000 yards and 27 touchdowns.
And we have to stress. I know we're not doing it. We've done it enough, but we can't possibly do it enough. They pass 20 times a game.
No, we're going to keep
15.
saying. No, that's max.
These guys are throwing 60 to like these Bradshaw stats. Big Ben. Big Ben throws more balls in a half than Bradshaw did in 2 games.
It's the truth. It's just the
So
way it is.
when you
So
look
we get
at
it.
Chris Carter here, you have to put it in perspective of its time.
Yeah, in 1985, he held the Rose Bowl record with 9 receptions for 172 yards. That's like today, getting 18 catches for 300 yards.
Anyways.
It's amazing
Anyway.
what he's done. He was Ohio State's first All-American wide receiver, as the all-time leader in career receptions, touchdown receptions. No doubt that his career, going through the troubled times he had, going through the struggling times in the drug scene that he had, he is a major success, and he's an Ohio State Buckeye of all time for what he played, how he played, and how he changed his life.
Let's talk about him a little bit, because when he goes to the pros, Buddy Ryan and they were like oil and water.
Yes.
Which that happens. I mean,
All the
look
time.
at Jerome Bettis.
Watch our other shows. You'll hear that.
Look at Jerome Bettis.
Yes.
With the Rams. They couldn't wait to get, and this guy was nothing
Another Hall
but
of Famer.
class.
Yes.
Now, Chris Carter, I can't speak to. I know that Buddy Ryan said he would take a six-pack, it could be warm to get rid of. But he went to Minnesota, had a terrific career, got along great with Dennis Green,
Yes.
and he mentored Randy Moss.
Yes, he did.
So there was a side of
Changed
him.
himself around. He did. I think that's a great honor for you Buckeye fans, to know that guys who came through the program and guys who moved on had at least a little learning experience.
And he passed it on.
Yes, and be a mentor for somebody
We
else.
talk about this, like one of the best things you can do as an adult. Any type of role model,
Any kind.
teacher, coach, scout leader, pass it on. Leave the next generation. First, leave this place better than it was. And secondly, leave them. Like he did that.
That's the goal.
Because Randy Moss was not the easiest guy to deal with.
You think he was easy to mentor?
No.
Yeah, no question about it. The next guy we're going to list was definitely
this is
my
his
guy.
guy.
He would not be on any other list.
No, he thought Al loved
There's
this.
probably 10 other quarterbacks that make this list. But when I was growing up, and I circled the W in winter, and I circled the big letter.
Absolutely.
You Ohio State Buck fan, you know right away who I'm talking about, and that's Rex Kern.
Rex Kern.
68 to 70.
How'd they do?
He was 27-2, that record that George talks about already.
Beat Southern Cal. See, when you did that back in the day, you did something.
Oh, yeah, that was big time.
The Southern Cal that this Clay Helton, they're firing him every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
This is John Mckay.
Yeah, he was an All-American without throwing the ball a lot. He was always team captain. At Ohio State, it's a big honor, by the way, because every player there was team captain of their high school team.
Absolutely.
I know they're not impressive, but if you wanted to say who would lead these great players we named out, who would you want to take this team and take them into a championship game? And you could say Troy Smith, yeah, I'd love him, or Fields, I love him, or Schleister, I love him. No, I just listen to the guy I want playing quarterback in this game, and that's that's who I try to emulate. So anytime that I have somebody like Rex Kern that I can put on a team, that's that's mine.
Winner, but it's winner.
That's mine.
It's winner.
I think that word's overlooked a lot.
Well, no. That once again, I got to tell you, a local school, I won't give you the name, but a college the same way. The guy first started recruiting, and he's getting this guy from here and that guy from there. And my buddy said to me one day, he says, you know, the trouble is, he said, he doesn't get enough guys from winning programs.
And that's written today in college basketball. The great coach will say right away, why did you take him? He was your sixth-rated guy. Yeah. Because he came from winning. He knows about winning.
Yeah, he'll set a screen.
Yeah, he knows about winning.
He'll go to the board.
Yes.
No, the same thing. This guy, I remember the redhead.
Yeah.
Like it was yesterday. This guy was a winner.
Yeah, that's what he was. No question. Woody Hayes' guy, that's Woody Hayes' guy. We saved the four linebackers for last. Number 36 is a big-time number at Ohio State. You know that. That number, when you get that number, that means you are something special. The first guy's a local guy. I watched him play in high school at Brookfield, Ohio. Marcus Merrick. He is one of the reasons 36 is retired. 4-year starter. He's still the all-time leading tackler in Ohio State history. When you get a local guy that ends up being a great, great, great player and becomes a Buckeye.
Hey, my first year, 1976. I'm like, I grew up, I don't know.
You don't know if Madam, right?
Well, we're scrimmaging Brookfield. And I look out, and there's this monster out there. I said, no, what's with this guy? I didn't know who he was. Right. Now, he's the all-time leading tackler.
That's all you gotta
570 tackles. That breaks down to what, 140 a year.
Yeah, amazing player. He's our first linebacker we won.
And that was 10 games too, by the way.
Yeah, 10 games. And
not 12 in a playoff.
Right. And the other thing about these linebackers we're talking about that we're going to name, they were not two downs, run off.
Sit down, third down.
Kind of game.
No, Cousineau, no.
They were on the whole time.
No.
Leads us to the next guy, Tom Cousineau, 75 to 78. Also wore 36. Single season record for tackles, 211. And two-time All-American. He's second in tackles behind Merrick.
Wait a minute. Talk about that Orange Bowl. Because I saw the numbers and thought they were a mistake. Yeah. MVP, 29?
Yeah, MVP from the defensive position. And
who does that?
I saved that one for George.
Yeah.
29 tackles in the game. George.
No, I never.
When they hear, today you'll hear, 8. What a game he played.
6 tackles.
He had 8 tackles. And
he had 2 assists. And they're talking about this guy like he's Sam Huff. Then I'm looking at this dude and I'm reading down there. I'm like, 29 tackle? Well, first of all, there aren't that many runs in a game anymore. He'd have to be chasing guys.
And that's why the game's
like
changed. So I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah.
I will give him credit for that. Yeah. The game has changed.
Absolutely.
But 29 tackles is 29 tackles.
Yeah.
But these guys all played the same way. When we saved these 4 for the end.
Yeah.
Merrick and Cousineau, and then we had Randy Gradishar. I watched play for Denver. You can take any one of those 3 linebackers in order. They're all super talented. Gradishar, I remember coming through from Champion, and just the quote from Woody Hayes made this clear.
This is it.
The late, great Woody Hayes said, the greatest linebacker I have ever coached. Remember, he coached these other guys.
That's what we said about Jim Parker, and I'll say, when Woodrow Hayes.
Yes.
You listen. It was like E.F. Hutton. Remember that commercial?
No question.
When you listen. When Woody Hayes said he's the best linebacker, it carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, that's a 12-year period right there that every year they would line up a linebacker that they knew was the best player on the field. And when you go through Merrick Gradishar, and Cousineau, you're leading into the very best of them all.
This is my favorite guy of all time.
Yeah, you're leading into the very best. And I know you Ohio State fans watching right now, you say, I know who this one is.
Yeah, you got this one right.
Yeah, Chris Spielman, no question about it. Best defensive player in the school history, and maybe he could be the best linebacker
Ever?
in college history.
Okay.
Yeah, he could be. I know Junior Seau will be in that talk, but he was at number 36 also. 546 career tackles, solo tackles. 208 by himself. 283 solo tackles. No, not help.
90
no help.
tackles a year. Now think about that in the course of a season to do something like that in a 10-game schedule.
Yeah, and Spielman still, as a talker on TV, and now working for the Detroit Lions, you could feel it in his blood how he hates linebackers that take a play off. Or that don't, because he had no idea, he couldn't do that.
There was no softness.
Maslin, I coached against him in high school, and I had no idea. I know we couldn't block him. And I'm thinking,
Why can't we block them? Yeah.
now I know why.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
he
no
ended up
one
being one of the greatest players in Big Ten history and college football
You know, he
history.
reminds me, he's one of those guys not taking his helmet off.
Never.
With the crowd to see him and Never. None of that.
They talk about his practice habits, how people were scared of him at practice.
No wonder.
Because he came every day to knock you out.
Yeah, he wasn't there to parade around.
No. He was there to make a play,
No.
to tackle with his head up and drill you into the ground. He did not miss tackles. You know, George, so many missed tackles today.
No, he don't miss it.
He missed no tackles.
Because he ran right through you, see.
Yeah.
He did it the way you're supposed to.
He horned you.
What'd you say? See what hit what you see. That, and he
says it
did.
all the time.
And he did.
He says it's still on the show, on TV show today.
And one more thing about him, he was a loving husband. His wife was
Yeah, think about
breast
that,
cancer.
yes.
He said, she's so much tougher than I am.
Yeah, he understood that, humility too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has humility also.
Yeah.
And so we saved this guy was
Last but
mentioned.
not
Yeah, we
least.
saved the last one, and you know who it is. There's not a question in Ohio State lore
No.
who the greatest player ever was, and that's the great Archie Griffin. He played from 72 to 75, two-time Heisman winner.
Back to back never happened.
Never. And just a guy that at 5'10", unassuming guy until he got on the football field. Voted in January of 2020 as the fourth greatest college football player of all time. That's all you got to know. That's Ohio State Buckeye talk right there.
Running back, Woody, you don't think you could give him the ball enough, do you?
Yeah, he played the perfect position, but he did not come in. They're saying, "Oh, we're going to give him the position." He came in and earned it right away because remember, he was 5'9", 5'9.5". He wasn't one of those like Eddie George coming in just look at him 1 second and say, "Wow, look at this guy, looks different."
3,100-yard games.
Yes, every game.
Yeah, no, but you
They were
marked it
keying
down.
on. They were keying on him every
The
game.
line was stacked because they didn't pass the ball.
No. But when you win 2 Heismans, I don't think you understand that.
Never happened.
It still has never happened. And when you win it the first time, they're looking for ways
To not
give it to you the second year. Like he could not help. Like they could not. They looked at him and said, "Wait a minute,
Absolutely.
he's the greatest player," and that leads us to what we're talking about. The number one player in Ohio State history, considered the fourth greatest player in college football history. That's Archie Griffin. And now when you talk about the Buckeyes, and people are watching, please, we live for this. We live for your writings. We live for you to call George, call Greg, or send an email to George. Greg, our producer, will put it on the screen. Please write in and say, no, we don't like this, or we do like that. George, final thoughts on the Buckeyes from me.
Yeah.
When you live in Ohio, you just had the honor to watch them and watch these guys.
No, these
play.
guys were all special. They could have played Texas, Oklahoma, anywhere. These are the greatest.
They
of
can
the
play
great.
now
Yep.
or before.
They can play tomorrow.
Yeah.
You give me Archie Griffin out there, Spielman in middle linebacker. I'm signing
We'll
up.
line up.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks again for watching Bottom Line Sports Talk. See you next week.